I secured a 2.875 rate in 2023. Let's talk about loan assumptions. So my wife and I have been house hunting for over a year. We were forced to move due to military pieces. We lost a 3.5 loan in the sale and we moved to our current state in June 2022 right as interest rates started their unrestricted climb to the stratosphere. We believed home prices may move inversely to the interest rates but they didn't. As we looked at houses we focused on going to houses that had assumable loans. Primarily VA loans because both my wife and I have the ability to substitute our entitlements with the sellers. VA and FHA loans can be assumed. VA loans can be assumed by non-VA eligible buyers, but it still goes against the seller's entitlement and they could lose the entitlement should the buyer default. So if I was on the selling end would not do a VA assumption unless the buyer was also VA eligible. We ran into quite a few problems in the process of trying to find a house that had an assumable loan. Even if your buyer's agent is on board, it was hard to get listing agents on board. They would tell their clients that his was not a good offer, etc. etc. My agent ended up educating many agents about assumptions. For us it was a no-brainer. We had sold our house and kept the proceeds, and assuming a loan would mean a $600 more difference in payments just due interest rates alone. Basically, the way the assumption works is you pay the difference between the list price and the seller's loan balance and you take their loan over with their terms wherever it may be in the amortization. In our case we are taking over about 3 years into this loan. So we closed yesterday. It took approximately 60 days from contract signing to closing. When negotiating the contract there is no place for seller concessions. So if you want concessions excluding closing costs, you are going to reduce the contract price to cover that. This is due to the fact that with these concessions you are basically just reducing the money you bring to the table at closing. So the process was very similar to getting any other loan. Underwriting was a pitter, which is usual. The underwriter's biggest concern was making sure we had the funds to close the loan and we weren't taking out other loans to bring the down payment to closing. One of the biggest differences we have noticed is the escrow is not restarted. You inherit the seller's escrow balance and it won't get reanalyzed until their annual escrow analysis. We are actually still dealing with this post-closing because it appears there is some funny math, like we are paying a $67 more escrow shortage, but the sellers also had to fund part of the escrow out of their settlement, so I am waiting on the lender to explain their math. If you have any questions or comments about the process, please ask away. Interesting. Thanks for posting. People ask about this somewhat frequently, so it's good to hear about someone's experience going through the process. How did you narrow your search for only assumable loans? The way we're looking through them right now is slow and painful. This is great info to share for others. Would you mind sharing if there was a gap amount between the loan and purchase price, and the amount of that gap, if there was one? How did you find sellers that had VA loans? My partner and I are VA eligible, so this might be worth looking into. In the market that most of us are facing, why would a seller agree to this? Can you tell me who the lender was? We're attempting this but unfortunately only want to put down like $100,000 and the two places we liked had too much equity. We've attempted trying to get a second lien but that seems nearly impossible. Also, how did you write the contract in terms of the loan amount? Did the seller make the payments during the process? Thanks for the info. I've never heard of assumable loans before. Who was the lender? I've heard it takes upwards of 6 months sometimes. I really wish this was how conventional loans worked. You assume the buyer's loan, or if you don't like their terms or lender you can get your own loan. It would really help with this housing shortage we're facing. People are stuck in their homes because they got massively low interest rates. Thanks for sharing, great stuff to know. My experience is that the lender can take a long time to process the paperwork, so check with the lender to find their turn times. There is no financial incentive to process the assumption. My only suggestion is to make sure everyone knows the time frame. How would I find this situation besides asking a real estate agent? Is it VA and FHA only? What surprises me is that the possibility of assuming a loan isn't written into every house listing that's eligible. You'd think that would be a big selling point. In 2013, I bought my first house and purposefully got an FHA loan because it would be assumable. I just knew that rates could not stay that low for too long. I expected rates to raise then like they did last year, and yet last year I didn't expect it because I was wrong the first time. This is all very hard to replicate. Ha ha. Bro, I'm so happy for you we pieces this year, and I'm just happy we found a great place. But good place plus low rate, amazing. What were you looking at for closing costs? 1/5 of the balance after the down payment is what I have been told, but that is a wide margin. Any advice for selling a 2.5 assumable FHA loan? We live in DFW but want to sell before the end of the year and thinking the assumable route could be potentially good to attract buyers in this market. Not sure if this is the right place, but the scenario that you're forced to move, wouldn't it make more sense to keep a 3 mortgage, rent it out and you yourself pay rent somewhere else? Been thinking about it, and just in closing costs alone, both selling and rebuying, I think it's already financially worth it. With the higher interest at 6-7, I would think it's a no-brainer. Lol to the stratosphere while we're still in the lower historical bounds of interest rates. Congrats op, may I ask what was the loan amount and how long is the loan period? I'm a lender and I have never seen a assumption loan work. Many have tried but chance of success ain't so great. You can also sell your house subject to and keep the existing mortgage for the end buyer, benefiting both parties if your loan is not assumable. VA loan user here. You also have to have the cash on hand to cover the remainder of the sales price. Example, home is priced at $425,000. Original loan $400,000. Owner owe amount on original loan $356,000. Your assumable amount would be $356,000 but need another $49,000 to cover the ask amount. How exactly do you find homes for sale with assumable loans? A lot of sellers may not even know that their loan is assumable. Party popper, thumbs up. There's a very nice house for sale in the town I live in with a VA assumable mortgage. 2.25, $2,333 a month. I'd have to come to the table with $75,000. I didn't know about VA assumable loans until I saw the listing. Thank you for bringing your knowledge about the subject to others who may not have heard of it before. TLDR, they assumed a loan with that rate. I tried this when my home was on the market some years ago, letting another veteran assume the loan. Was talked out of it because it used to tie up your benefit, even if the loan was no longer yours. Because it originated with you and was still out there, it somehow counted against the value limit. Not a big deal for most, but if you pieces into a whole area it could result in a hefty down payment depending on the VA loan limit there. Not sure if this still applies though. No, you didn't. You assumed an existing loan. Very different than securing a loan. So you got a really low rate because you got a VA loan and have a ton of money saved up? I too had a low rate on $1 million home by having $1 million saved up. I'm sure the seller had other conventional offers too, right? Were they purposefully trying to help you out? Let's not. Yay, this should be taken with a heavy grain of salt. No one has 100k laying around. Is the seller still on the hook if the new buyer defaults at any point during the full amortization schedule? Is this a VA loan? Eli 5. Not clearly understanding here. Why can't this be the norm? Can I go directly to the lender with my financial info and ask them if I can assume the loan as a part of closing? What a deal though. Everything is amazing in this, including the fact you start paying in year 3 of the loan more of your payment to principals versus interest.